D'accord.
Avez-vous des questions pour William qui est là pour répondre à toutes vos questions sur le film? Commentaires?
Also, if you want to leave, then leave now.
Vous pouvez également partir tout de suite si vous préférez.
Bravo! Bravo!
La première question, alors je vais la dire en français, c'est comment est venue l'idée du film et comment j'ai commencé donc à avoir comment j'ai commencé à aborder le projet du film.
I made a short film which went to a film festival, and then once I was showing that short film at the film festival, a programmer from the festival said that I should think about making a feature film. And so, but I didn't know what to make, so I started to read a lot of scripts from different writers, and one of those writers was a fantastic playwright called Alice Birch, and she wrote a play called December, which I read. I thought it was fantastic. So we met for a cup of coffee, and when we had that meeting, she had in her bag this book, Lady Macbeth of Intense by Nikolai Leskov. And she said, I think this would be a really interesting film. And I had heard about the opera, but I didn't know that there was either a film of this book or even a play. So I thought, well, I'll read it. And when I read it, I just thought it was absolutely fantastic.
Alors j'ai commencé à faire des courts-métrages et quand j'ai présenté donc mon premier court-métrage à un festival, on m'a encouragé à faire des longs-métrages. Donc j'ai commencé à lire beaucoup de scripts différents jusqu'à ce que je tombe sur celui de Alice Birch, qui est donc le script du film. Et donc je me suis décidée rapidement sur ce script.
And the thing that really appealed to me when I read the book was this central character of Catherine, because I felt like I hadn't really ever seen a protagonist like it. I mean, there are so many sort of unlikable and despicable men that we see on film and in books, but a young woman who, and you know, I had read a lot of plays which were written in this period. You know, Ibsen writes Hedda Gabler and Nora in The Doll's House, but these women tend to either kill themselves or suffer in silence or run away. And what was so lovely about Catherine, or Katerina in the book, was that actually she fought back, and it was quite violent and it was quite bloody, and I thought this was really fantastic.
Ce qui m'a le plus séduit, c'est clairement le personnage de Catherine, parce qu'il est complètement unique. On voit tous les hommes qui sont odieux, qui sont abominables, ça on a l'habitude, mais un personnage féminin qui se bat et qui se rebelle et qui est aussi forte, c'est très rare, c'est le personnage de Catherine en russe, dans le roman russe.
Yeah, there's a question over here.
Que représente le chat?
The cat. The cat's actually become very popular in these Q&As, I have to say. I spend more time talking about the cat than anything else, which I'm very happy to do because the cat is excellent. In the book, in the Russian book, the cat actually, when Boris dies, the cat starts to speak with Boris's voice, and at one point Catherine even thinks that she sees Boris's face on the cat. So when we were making the film, I thought, how do we get this element across? So we filmed the cat, and then we recorded some lines from Boris, and we tried to put them in the cat's mouth, and the results were so terrible that we immediately cut it, because it just looked too weird. And so we just left the cat. And it's surprising because a lot of people have said, oh, right, once they hear this, they say, oh, actually, I did see Boris's face in the cat. Which is not very flattering to Chris, who plays Boris, but because it's basically a hairless cat. But that was what we were trying to do. We were trying to get across the idea that maybe he was a sort of a familiar, or maybe he was, in some way, a sort of representation of Boris after death.
Ce chat, il est très très populaire dans toutes les questions que j'ai sur le film, on en parle à chaque fois. Ce chat, dans la pièce, en fait, il représentait Boris une fois qu'il était mort, et on avait même pensé à un moment lui donner une voix, mais on a essayé, et puis c'était vraiment pas du tout réussi, donc on a laissé tomber cette histoire. cette idée, mais il y a vraiment l'idée que le chat représente Boris, qui n'est pas forcément flatteur d'ailleurs pour l'acteur, parce qu'il est, il est tout rasé, il est pas très beau, donc c'est pas très flatteur pour lui.
Où est-ce que ça a été tourné et combien de temps?
Where did we shoot the movie and how long did it take? Yeah. We shot it in the northeast of England in a place called Chesterley Street, which is between Newcastle and Durham. And I knew this area because I was at university in Durham, and I loved the landscape, you know, the moors there and the Northumberland National Park and so on, very close to Scotland. And it took 24 days.
Alors le film a été tourné dans le nord-est de l'Angleterre, dans une région qui s'appelle Chestershire, qui est près de Durham. C'est là où j'étais à l'université, c'est un endroit que j'aime beaucoup. Et c'est un endroit où il y a beaucoup de landes en fait. Voilà. Donc, et le tournage a pris 20 jours. 24 jours.
Oui, comment est-ce que vous avez préparé le rôle avec l'actrice principale?
Can everybody hear the question?
Vous voulez que je répète la question en français? Comment avez-vous préparé l'actrice principale pour le rôle?
We had some rehearsal time. My background is in theatre, so I really didn't want to lose what I knew worked for me in terms of a process, and those two things were rehearsal, and then also we shot the film in sequence, in chronological order. So I think those 10 days that we had of rehearsal allowed us to just talk about the character, just to make sure that we were thinking the same thing. And that's the crucial element, was that we're making the same film, we have the same feelings about Catherine. And we were able to walk through the whole house the weekend before we started shooting. We were just able to walk through and we didn't play the scenes out full. We didn't go to the sort of full emotional limits of the scene, but we just, you know, allowed the actors to sort of play each scene for themselves in each room. Then we walk down the stairs, and then so all of the stuff at the beginning where she gets dressed and she wakes up and she goes downstairs and she sits there and she gets up. We did all of that, and it just allowed Florence the time to sort of see what it was like, and then the next scene and the next scene. So she at least could then make a map in her mind of where she needed to be emotionally should we go out of order.
Alors d'abord, il faut que je vous dise que je suis un metteur en scène de théâtre, donc j'ai l'habitude de travailler beaucoup de répétitions. Donc on a travaillé avec des répétitions et des séquences en ordre chronologique. On a passé un week-end entier dans la maison où est tourné le film, et on a été d'une pièce à l'autre avec Florence pour voir un petit peu là où elle allait trouver ses limites émotionnelles dans chaque pièce. La pièce le matin où elle se réveille, où elle se couche, etc. Et donc, comme ça, quand on a commencé le tournage proprement parlé, elle était familiarisée avec ce qu'elle devait vivre et à quel emplacement dans la maison ça se passait.
Peut-être je me trompe, mais dans l'époque victorienne, les vêtements sont assez sombres et on voit ce personnage avoir différents types de vêtements et surtout différents types de couleurs. Mais au fur et à mesure que l'histoire évolue, à la fin, elle a des vêtements assez sombres comme le reste de la société. Et donc, est-ce qu'il y a une sorte de répression ou d'ambiance, de répression dans ce personnage à la fin?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that in Victorian times people had very dark clothes, and we could see her progression of clothes. I think it starts with brighter colors, but it ends very dark, as if she's being repressed. Is that anything new? Does it sound familiar?
Well, we knew that, in Victorian England, when somebody dies, you have to wear the mourning weeds. So we knew that Florence or Catherine would be wearing black from about the halfway point of the film. But the difficulty is that these black clothes on a digital camera can often look quite flat. There's a sort of, it's not like film where it captures light in the same way. So the costume designer had to work very carefully to make sure there was texture in the material. So she made some of the clothes out of horsehair, which has a good sort of rough texture, and then there was some grease worked into some of the clothes to give it a sheen and so on. And then she was also talking about what kind of blacks, red blacks, blue blacks, green blacks, and then so black became the palette for the rest of the costumes. So we thought about, you know, sometimes if you have a crow's feather or a magpie's feather, very often there's a sort of blue element to it, and then there's also the green element, sort of petrol element. And so we thought, well, actually, let's try and make the other costumes blue and green, and then there was a sort of green-red dress that changed with the light. But it all came out of this idea of how we're going to spend so much time wearing black.
Alors évidemment, à cette époque, quand on était en deuil, on portait du noir, ça c'est évident. Donc en fait, elle est en noir à partir de la moitié du film. Et le noir avec une caméra numérique, ça peut paraître assez plat en fait, et ça manque de relief et de texture. Donc on a dû vraiment travailler pour donner du relief à ce noir, et donc on a aussi travaillé des nuances de noir. Comme par exemple, si vous voyez une plume de corbeau, elle est noire, mais elle est bleutée également. Donc on a fait des noirs bleutés, des noirs un peu verts, etc.
On a une question sur le fond de la salle, je vais juste donner le micro.
Who's speaking? Oh yeah, okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Ok, je vais faire la question en français. Quels ont été les caractères pour le casting? Pourquoi cette comédienne? Et pourquoi cette fin? Quel est le but de cette fin hyper ouverte?
Well, I'm much more interested to hear what you think about the point of the ending was, so I'll leave that for later on. But in terms of the casting, I can tell you that what we found with Florence was that she was very, very close to the Catherine we imagined. When we met her in the audition, she's about the same age, she has the same sort of, well, I tell you, she really defended Catherine's actions from the very beginning, and that was very important to us, that she didn't judge her. And she, you know, she's a young woman who's going through the same sort of difficulties and problems. I mean, not as extreme as what happens in the film, sure, but, you know, she very naturally found her spirit was absolutely right. You know, she is able to present this young, optimistic, hopeful person at the beginning, and then when she's under pressure, she is able to fight back, and she has a real resolve, Florence, and that was very, very important to us, that we didn't meet the killer at the beginning. That we find it as a surprise through the film.
Alors pour ce qui est de la fin du film, ce qui m'intéresserait, c'est que vous me donniez votre opinion, pourquoi cette fin-là. Pour ce qui est du choix de la comédienne, on a trouvé, Florence interprète très naturellement et très spontanément les caractères de Catherine. C'est une jeune femme également, on ne peut pas les comparer évidemment, mais dont la personnalité s'affirme au cours du film. On ne sait pas que c'est une criminelle au début, et sa personnalité se développe et s'affirme tout au long du film.
Oh yeah.
Est-ce que le métissage dans le casting était un choix délibéré? Or was it a deliberate choice to have mixed race cast?
Well, I'll tell you how it began. It was that as we did our research for the film, we started to find photographs which showed us that England in 1865 was far more diverse than we were led to believe. Because if you use Sense and Sensibility, which I know is earlier, but okay, let's take Dickens, for example. If you take Dickens as a historical document, then you would think there were no black people in England in the mid-9th century at all, which is not true, because obviously they were brought for the last couple of hundred years up to that point as slaves, but they didn't just disappear. So we found photographs showing us that there were many more black families, also aspiring middle classes, having their photographs taken in the mid-19th century. And knowing this, and knowing that England was more diverse than we had imagined, we were then able to cast whoever we wanted for whatever role. So it meant that actually we were not specifically saying, this character is black, this character is white, or whatever. I mean, it was not written in the book or the script. It just meant that we were able to cast the best actor for each part. And that's what we did. So, for example, Naomi, who plays Anna, we didn't meet anybody else who could convey what she says without words in such a way. We thought that she was fantastic in that. And similarly for Florence as Catherine.
Alors, tout d'abord, on s'est rendu compte en 1855 que l'Angleterre était beaucoup plus mélangée, diversifiée racialement parlant que ce qu'on pouvait imaginer. On a trouvé des photos avec des personnes noires, même si on lit Dickens, on voit qu'il y a l'élément racial qui est là, qui est très présent. Mais pour être honnête, on a surtout choisi les acteurs indépendamment de leur origine raciale. Par exemple, Naomi qui joue Barbara, elle était juste parfaite on n'a trouvé aucune autre actrice qui était capable de rendre ses émotions comme ça en étant muette en fait.
Hi, I have a question about the music, because I think that it's pretty absent in your movie, and as far as I'm concerned, I think that, generally speaking, music plays a pivotal role in movies. So, given the fact that I consider it was a deliberate choice from you, could you explain me why you used so few musical moments in the movie? I mean, was it a way to make the film look drier, or was it a way to convey a message in a different way? I don't know. Thank you.
Je traduis peut-être la question rapidement. Pourquoi cette absence de musique, alors quand on sait que la musique joue vraiment un rôle pivot dans un film, enfin central dans un film?
I think it's a little bit of that, yeah. Or the austerity of the film, I think we wanted to really capture, and we didn't feel like music was going to help in that sense. But actually, I always felt like I try and avoid music to emotionally signpost or to give a sense of emotion, which I think can be achieved with the performance and with the edit. So actually, I thought, let me start in that place. Let's see whether we can get the emotions through the performance, and then also with the cut, you can change pace and you can change tone, and then we can make it feel like we are focused on the performance in the scene without needing music to help us. Then I thought that would be a good place. So we then tested it after we had made a few edits. And we kept saying, do we need music? Is music going to really help this? And actually, most people that we showed it to said, no, it doesn't. It won't assist it. I mean, I'm a big fan of musical score. I love score in films, but with this, it just felt right that we were actually getting what we needed without using music. And I just want to underline those three key moments of the three murders. And I think that actually that sparseness helped. If there had been music throughout, maybe they wouldn't have been so poignant, those beats.
Mais clairement, l'absence de musique liée à l'austérité du film, j'essaie d'éviter d'avoir un espèce de sous-titrage émotionnel avec la musique, d'utiliser la musique à cette fin. Donc mon parti pris était de laisser les émotions s'exprimer sans utiliser la musique. Et j'ai voulu garder les trois moments forts qui sont les trois meurtres, justement sans avoir recours à la musique.
I was wondering if you had any challenges adapting a novel that was originally written in Russian to an English setting. Je voulais demander comment est-ce que vous avez rencontré des défis ou des difficultés à adapter le film d'un contexte russe, ou le roman original d'un contexte russe à un contexte anglais.
Well, yes, we did, and then we cut those bits. So at the end, in the book, not to give it away for those people who haven't read it, but Catherine and Sebastian get caught, and then they get sentenced to a long march to a penal colony in Siberia, which we didn't have in Durham. And also we wanted to change the end because we wanted to have a more satisfying ending for Catherine, that she should win, even though that victory is essentially a hollow victory. But we otherwise it sort of works in terms of the social relationship, the class system, the idea of we don't have serfs at that time, but we had sort of the working class and so on. I guess more or less the sort of marital situation was the same. Women were owned by their husbands until 1870, which we thought was very important for Catherine in terms of her struggle. And I guess law and order in terms of the punishment that would happen was the same. So yeah, more or less it sort of worked, just that last bit.
Oui, alors évidemment, si je vous dis la fin du livre, que Catherine et Sébastien sont emmenés vers un camp en Sibérie. Et forcément, oui, là, on n'a pas pu le mettre en scène dans le film. Enfin, on l'a pas rendu dans le film, évidemment. Mais sinon, il y a beaucoup de similarités quand même. On n'avait pas les serfs comme en Russie, mais on avait quand même des employés de maison. Et puis, les femmes étaient quand même généralement dans la propriété de leur mari. Ça, c'était également un élément semblable. Donc, il y avait effectivement des similarités qui nous ont permis de le transposer assez facilement.
Did you have any surprises by the way the actress did the character that you thought before?
Surprises. Yeah, no, I mean, constantly, yeah. I mean, with all of the actors, they were doing things, I mean, good surprises. I mean, because the bad surprises aren't in the film, they're the ones we've cut. But yeah, I'd like to create an environment where actors feel free to improvise. You know, so as long as we have the thoughts that are very, very clear, and we know what they're trying to achieve, what their sort of objective is, then they can decide how they want to get there, basically. And we just try that. You know, we didn't have very much time to do that in 24 days, but at least they're free to explore, because that's ultimately what I want. I want to use the actor's imagination rather than telling them exactly what to do. But I think the actors were surprised in certain moments, and that was what we caught on camera. I mean, Florence was definitely surprised when the horse fell over. I mean, for sure. She didn't expect that to happen, and I think we captured a moment of that. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, I didn't try and trick the actors to get a surprise, if that's what you mean. I didn't sort of try and play games in that way. But
oui, des surprises, j'en ai constamment parce que j'essaie de laisser les acteurs s'exprimer eux-mêmes et j'essaie de les laisser avoir libre cours à leur imagination. Évidemment, on n'a gardé que les bonnes surprises, les mauvaises, on les a pas gardées. Sur le film, évidemment, on les a coupées au montage. Je pense qu'un des exemples, c'est quand Catherine voit le cheval se tomber. Là, on voit vraiment dans son visage qu'elle a été étonnée par la scène. Mais je ne joue pas de jeu avec eux, je n'essaie pas de les mettre dans des situations pour qu'ils révèlent quelque chose à l'intérieur d'eux. Je les laisse simplement se révéler eux-mêmes dans le film.
Yeah, I was wondering, does this young actress, did she already have an experience, or was it her first experience in a feature?
this was Florence's first lead role. She was 19 when she made this film. I'd seen her in a film called The Falling, directed by Carol Morley, and she played a part for about half an hour in that as a supporting role.
She's amazing.
She's very good, isn't she? I think she's going to be... she's now shooting with Dwayne Johnson, The Rock. So we have to say goodbye to her.
Should have worked.
It's called Fighting With My Family. It's a film about a wrestler, Paige, somebody, WWE. So it's quite good to go from this to playing a wrestler. I mean, it's quite good.
Oui, c'est son premier rôle principal. Elle avait 19 ans au moment du tournage. Elle avait fait...
She played in The Fallen?
The Falling.
The Falling, okay. Carol Morning.
Carol Morning.
Before that.
Elle avait joué dans The Falling de Carol Morning avant ceci, et là maintenant elle fait un nouveau film qui s'appelle The Rock avec Dwayne Johnson. Donc elle change complètement de personnage puisqu'elle va jouer le rôle d'un boxeur, d'un catcheur.
Moi je voulais savoir quelles étaient vos inspirations filmiques.
Well, I really like Dogtooth by Yorgos Lanthimos. This film is one of my favourite films. I like Funny Games by Michael Haneke. What else do I like? It's very difficult to say. Happiness by Todd Solondz. I like this film. They're all quite dark films, probably, but it's I find them very funny. That's all.
J'aime beaucoup Dogtooth de Yorgos Lanthimos, Funny Games de Michael Haneke et Happiness Todd Solondz. Ce sont des films assez sombres, mais auquel je trouve un certain humour.
Je voulais dire tout simplement merci pour ce film. J'ai vu quelques spectacles à Moscou d'après ce livre et j'ai pu comparer un tout petit peu votre vision de ce roman avec ce que j'ai vu au théâtre. Et franchement, cette froidité, cette manque des moments expressifs, j'ai beaucoup aimé ça. Pour moi, c'était très intéressant parce que au théâtre russe, c'est très expressif, tout le monde crie, il y a beaucoup de passion, beaucoup des émotions. Et ici, c'est tellement froid, mais moi, j'ai beaucoup aimé. Pour moi, c'était l'autre regard, l'autre lecture de ce livre. Voilà. Et peut-être que la question c'est pourquoi cette froidité, juste un peu plus d'explications.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I think there's a general fear in the UK of what we would call, well, like melodrama is a dirty word. You know, this is like you never want to. I think there's some very, very good melodramas, but I think that every actor is afraid of sort of histrionics, basically. I would say that's probably what they don't want to. It just felt, it also just felt, the way that Alice wrote it felt very, very sparse. There was a real sort of austerity of emotion in this world, a real austerity of language. Language was really stripped back, and therefore actually it didn't take very much to express. What I love about what Florence did, for example, is that I felt that, certainly at the end, in that moment where Sebastian comes in and says, we did it, you can just see in her face all of the thoughts that are going through her head. She's thinking, he's breaking up with me in public, and I can't reveal what I truly feel. He's also confessing to the crime, and I have to now think very quickly how I'm going to get out of this. And then I also have to work out what I'm going to do to save my life in this situation. But I feel like you can see all of those thoughts going on. And so in a way, it was clear. And this is something I've learned going from theatre to film, is that on theatre you would need to show that through the whole body. And I think most of the time that your actors train to actually show that sort of emotional life through the whole body. But with this, your camera is here, you know, so actually you want to just be able to, if the thoughts are clear, I think it just transmits.
Le mélodrame en Angleterre, c'est pas très bien vu, donc c'est peut-être ça le parti pris d'austérité. Mais vous voyez, quand la scène finale, quand Sébastien rentre dans la pièce et dit c'est nous qui l'avons tué, on voit dans les yeux de Florence tout ce qui se passe par sa tête, tout ce qui se passe dans sa tête. En fait, d'abord, il est en train de me quitter en public parce que c'est quelque part ce qu'il est en train de faire. Qu'est-ce qui va m'arriver, qu'est-ce qui va se passer, etc. Alors oui, peut-être elle aurait pu le révéler avec son corps. Bon, là, tout passe dans son regard, en fait.
One more, and then we can stop.
Une question sur l'inspiration peut-être de peintres flamands. Il y a certains plans fixes sur vraiment des peintures. Je me demandais quels étaient vos peintres éventuellement qui avaient inspiré ce
But it's Flemish via Willem Hammershoy, who's a Danish artist who was painting it in this period. And what I loved about his paintings, well, he loved Vermeer, for example, so he studied a lot of Vermeer's paintings. They weren't contemporaneous with each other, but he studied Vermeer. But Hammershoy's paintings are usually, most people probably know them, but they usually are like an empty room, very, very sparse, but they have a real beautiful light that comes through the window, sort of cold, clear, sort of Northern European light. And there's usually very little furniture in the room, and there's usually a central female character wearing black, and usually she's facing away from the viewer. And so she doesn't have a face, and her face is hidden from the viewer. And I thought this was very interesting because actually the character that you see in the painting is robbed of personality. And I felt like actually this is what the men are doing to Catherine in the story.
This is Boris.
time to stop.
Excellent. Yeah, I've got 2 minutes. I'll be very quick. But essentially, I thought that what was interesting with these paintings was that these women were robbed of personality in the same way the men in the film robbed Catherine's personality. So we used those paintings as a real inspiration for our sort of composition.
Oui, tout à fait. J'aime beaucoup le peintre William Hammershaw qui s'est inspiré de Vermeer et j'ai toujours cette image d'un tableau flamand avec une lumière froide qui rentre par la fenêtre et un personnage en noir dont on ne voit pas le visage. Et c'est une image pour dire qu'on a volé la personnalité de Catherine et les hommes lui ont volé sa personnalité en fait. C'est comme une personne qui n'a plus de visage.
Thank you very much for coming to see this film. Can you please tell your friends to come on the 12th of April? The more people who come, the longer it stays in the cinema. I think that is true. I mean, yeah. So please, thank you very much. Lovely to see you. Thank you.